Great morning, great morning, great morning. I am Nicole D. Jones, and I am just happy and grateful for another day. I'm happy and grateful for life. I say it every week. I don't take days for granted. I don't take you for granted. I'm happy and grateful for you. I want to remind you, as always, you are healthy, you are wealthy, and you are prosperous. Everything your hands go to touch, it must, it shall, and it will manifest, prosper, and grow great things because you are great. Your journey is not, there's not an expectation of you being perfect through this journey. We're walking the journey out because we're striving for perfection. Okay. So I'm gonna say it every week. It encourages me. Thank you for being an accountability for me every week. Hopefully you feel the same way. Now, I want to get into this today because the last the last 4 weeks, we've been talking about, and I asked you last week to really think about who has access to you and where they fall. Are they a friend? Are they an associate? Are they an assignment? Or are they an advisor? So if you had not done that, definitely, it's a lot today, but I don't even want you to focus on taking the notes. Go back to the YouTube channel. I am Nicole D. Jones. Every one of those videos are up there. And then come back to today. Because now that we've put people in the right category in our life, in the right lane, however you want to look at it, I want to go back to the question I always ask. Who has access to you and why? Okay. So now that we're putting people in the right place, this is what we have to do next. Okay. We have to get to a place where we begin to understand how to discern or how to deal with the people in the right perspective and in the right places. All right. So the first thing I want you to understand is frustration. Okay. When you think of relationships and you think of the people that are in your life and who have access to you and why, you have to look at frustration and what it means. All right. So when we think of frustration, of course, it's irritating. It's a negative thing. But this is the deal. When you're dealing in relationships, there is not one relationship that is not going to have a moment or a time of frustration. So the first thing we need to do is shift our perspective. And I need you to look at frustration as your friend. What are you talking about, Nicole? Listen, frustration is something negative. So it immediately takes us to a negative space. But you got to look at frustration as a friend when it comes to your relationships and who has access to you and why. This is why it's so important to know who's a friend, who's an associate, who is an assignment, and who is an advisor. You have to know these things because now we got to start gauging our frustration because we're human and it's going to come. But when you start looking at frustration as a friend, you will know frustration lets you know when something's not right. Frustration lets us know that somewhere we have a failed expectation. It lets us know that, you may be expecting someone to give you what they don't have the capacity to give you, or they're just not willing to give it to you. Okay. So when I say we got to shift our perspective when it comes to the people who have access to us and why, and understanding why, you got to look at frustration as a friend. Okay. Because I'm going to go over it again. And like I said, go back to the video. All right. I've been good on keeping them on there. Frustration lets you know something is not right. It lets you know, it'll discipline your expectations. I say it all the time. Discipline your expectations so you're not looking for a specific response, but just a response. When we start putting people in the right category, our expectation of response will change. I promise you that. All right. But frustration will tell you the failed expectations so we know how to adjust our expectations. And it also lets us see what we're expecting from someone, all right? As far as what we're looking for someone to give us. And then you gotta listen, you gotta look at that mirror, and you gotta be true to you. Does this person even not have the capacity, or do they just don't want to do it? All right. So here's the thing. When we're thinking about, now that we have these people and these relationships that we are allowing to have access to us in the right places and the right categories, we got to understand that reflection is key. All right. We got to be willing to have a conversation with ourselves. All right. So the last month we were talking about being able to understand what the titles and the roles of friend, associate, assignment, and advisor is, so we can start compartmentalizing people. Because this is the thing. When you allow people to have access to you, like I told you, anything that has access to you, we all carry energy. So you got to know and have these people in the right place, because depending on what's going on, they should be given or they're going to be taken. Okay. But when you have people in the right place, you understand what relationships should be giving and how, and what will maybe take and you not get back. So you have to do that for you, but you also have to then take the next step. That's what we're talking about now. You got to be willing to now reflect. Okay. You have to not only be in a relationship, you have to know how to think about them. All right. So when you think of your spouse, or you think of your children, like, you got to take every person individually and you got to start reflecting. All right. Because this is the reason you can be in a relationship for a long time, but just because you're in it does not mean that you're working on it. All right. There's a difference. You can be in a relationship, but are you working on that relationship? Two different things. In and on, they're two different things. Okay. So you got to be willing to put yourself as your priority. When you think of relationship, any interaction you have with another person, you can only control you. So you got to learn to discipline your expectations. You got to learn how to understand the importance and the relevance of this relationship in your life. All right. And listen, you cannot go on autopilot in relationships. All right. Now, I don't know about you, but as I'm learning to put people in the right category, not based off of their role with me or their title with me, but just really being able to be truthful with myself, I am learning that I put a lot of relationships on autopilot. All right. But that's so dangerous. Okay. You will go through this journey just going through it. All right. You won't exist. You won't receive all when you are on autopilot in the relationships that are around you. So you got to be honest and transparent to yourself. All right. And in being honest and transparent to you, you have to look at how you're feeling, thinking, and seeing something. All right. This is really emotional intelligence. So I don't know how many of you have taken those different IQ tests. There's emotional intelligence, there's relational intelligence. It's, I think, 4 quadrants. I've learned people's personalities off of winter, spring, summer, fall. So all of this makes it like the brain thing, neurology. All of this is real. All right. Y'all know the word. I can't pronounce it. All right. So, but reflection is the starting point that we got to be willing to do for ourselves. The most important person to talk to is you. Okay. The most important person that you have to start this conversation off of reflection is yourself. And you got to give yourself that permission. You gotta, and this sounds so simple, but just like my mentor Riyad Jones used to say, what's simple to do is also simple not to do. This is why we got to learn to prioritize ourselves and have self-love. All right. Self-love is more than self-care. It's more than going to get a massage, because you can go and spend your money to get a massage, but if you're not massaging your mental capacity, you're going to stay stressed out. All right. So here's the thing. You got to give yourself permission to have a non-judgmental internal conversation. I'm going to say that again. You got to give yourself permission to have a non-judgmental internal conversation, especially if you're claiming faith. All right? Especially if you're claiming faith. I ain't even going to get on that soapbox. We have to think about, we think about if our thoughts are appropriate more than if we think about if they're right. So think about if you're thinking about something happens to you, and it may be a negative thought, like it's something going on right now. Personally with me, in my life, and with my family, whatever, right? So my first thoughts and my feelings, because the situation is jacked up, my feelings are not necessarily good feelings, all right? But what we'll end up doing is we'll spend more time on like, oh my God, I shouldn't be thinking these thoughts, or, these are bad thoughts, and I can't have bad thoughts. And, we'll start going down that versus whether or not the thought is right. I hope that makes sense. All right. We got to start listening to what our feelings and our emotions are telling us, because the reality is emotions are like the compass of your heart. It's the gauger of your soul. Yeah. Your emotions, your feelings, they really are an engager of your soul. Okay. Because we're spirit with a soul wrapped in this flesh. But I think what begins to happen, and this is why you got to be honest and true to yourself. You got to be willing to have a non-judgmental conversation with your inner self. All right. Because when you feel something, you don't be so quick to just throw it away. Like, I've been told I'm too emotional. Okay. So I find myself, when I'm sharing, that maybe I won't share something because I'm like, I don't want people to think I'm too emotional and I'm this and I'm that. This is why your first conversation got to be with you, because your feelings, your emotions, what you're feeling, it's trying to tell you something about your soul. All right. It's trying to tell you something about your heart. Man. Whew. Your emotions are messengers of your soul. All right. Let me look at something. It's the way that our emotions are God's way of alerting us to something we need to pay attention to. Okay. They can alert us with what's going on in our lives, in our heart, in our relationship. All right. So with your emotions, you got to keep your emotions in the right perspective, in the right place. But I need you to understand, God gave us emotions for a reason. It's a heart gauger. It's a soul gauger. Okay. So when you start feeling a certain way, and this is all why we got to categorize people in the right place, because I don't need you all emotional on someone that's an assignment. And you can't get, you got to understand with assignments, they're going to take more from you, and they don't have the capacity to give back what you're giving out. But if you're so emotional over there, you will suck yourself dry, and then you'll blame the person. This is why we blame Jehovah God when things don't happen, because we get so emotional. Lord, let me. All right. So here's the thing. We got to get to a place where we're willing to walk these things out. We got to learn how to ask those probing questions. Y'all know what probing questions are. The who, what, when, where, and why. You know, why am I frustrated? Okay. And then be willing to answer yourself honestly. I'm frustrated because, see, when it started out, my frustration was more on the answer. But as I went through the day yesterday and I had to, you know, look at me first. And the root of my frustration is because I feel like the dynamics of my family has shifted since my dad passed away. So I feel like, see, your emotions, they're real. They're real to me. I feel like not only do I have to grieve losing my father, I have to grieve losing men in my life. Because since the death of my dad, it shifted the relationship of me and my uncles, the relationship of me and my brother. So now in my emotions yesterday, I felt like I'm grieving my dad, my uncle, my other uncle, my brother, because the emotions I was feeling yesterday were real. Okay. There were some things in my heart. I hope this is making sense. This is why it's so important. You gotta know who's in your life and why. Who has access to you and why? Are they in the right spaces in this season? Because the hats can change. But in doing this, your first, what did I even say it was? What am I doing? I done lost focus. The whole thing of being realistic and what we got to look at, it's got to be you. It's got to be me. Okay. So I had to ask those probing questions to myself. Why am I frustrated? Why do I feel like this? Why? When it comes to you and your relationships, it's got to be ask why, not why, ask why. All right. Listen, you got to be able to do this because you can't improve a relationship if you're not willing to evaluate it. You got to be willing to evaluate the relationships in your life. You can't improve them. All right. If you have an issue with finances, you got to evaluate your situation so that you know what to do to improve it. If you want a healthier marriage, you got to evaluate. Listen, you got to be true to you and the reality of the situation in order for you to evaluate it, to figure out what needs to change to make it better. Okay. So your relationships define the direction and the quality of your journey. Oh my God. Oh Lord. Listen, you got these categories. You're putting these people, what time is it? 10:20. You're putting these people in the right perspective because you got to love you enough to understand the quality of your life and the direction of your journey. It all depends on how you're dealing with relationships in your life. It impacts that. If you walking through this journey always frustrated, irritated, busted, and disgusted with the same people, and you're not willing to ask yourself these probing questions, you're gonna rob yourself. The person is not robbing you. You're robbing yourself. You're robbing yourself from peace. You're robbing yourself from joy. You gotta think about someone. Why is it that someone can be married for 20 years and as soon as the children leave, they filing for divorce? See, that's because they were in the marriage. They're in it, they're husband and wife, but they didn't take the time to work on the marriage. Listen, your relationships define the direction and the quality of your journey. I'm trying to pound this to you because we are at a place where we are going to be the best version of us unapologetically. We're submitting to Jehovah God. We're walking out humility. We understand that there's a Holy Spirit that's left to lead, God, and direct us. The more that we can be realistic and have priority in our journey, the more we can be. The more we are fulfilled in our purpose, the more we learn to count stuff all joy, because now we're going through the right trials and the right tribulations. We're not throwing our pearls to swine. When you get clarity of people's roles, decisions become easier. Listen to me. When you get clarity on your role with this person, it makes your decisions easier, all right? When you realize that this person ain't your friend anyway, okay? It makes your decisions easier. Man, all right, soapbox. Emotional attachments, we got to understand that with every relationship we have comes an emotional attachment, excuse me. You have these emotional attachments, but you got to recognize, this is why I keep saying, listen, y'all, go back to the videos. They ain't never more than 30 minutes. If you can binge watch on Netflix, binge watch for your life, okay? For your journey. Do you want to be full and free and purposeful and learn to be? Okay? Listen, with every relationship, emotional attachments come, all right? Whether it's good or bad. But you have to understand that with this, it affects you. Your emotions can affect you like alcohol. I don't know if anyone who drinks, okay? But you know, if you drink, you do drugs, whatever, what does it do? It reduces, it impairs you. So like your motor skills slow down, your thinking process slows down. You think of someone who's been drinking, all right? They get relaxed, like they decision making, it slows down. They may not make the best decisions. I need you to understand that relationship and emotional attachments can be an intoxication too. They will impair your judgment. When you're emotionally attached to someone, it will impair your judgment. When you love this person, it could be a toxic relationship. It will impair your judgment. You can put them in the right category, have this probing conversation with yourself, know what you're supposed to do, but that emotional attachment, okay, it will get you to a point where you'll go on autopilot. You'll be in something, but not work on it. All right. So let me go back to my book, because I don't want to get on a soapbox, and I probably, what time is it? It's 10:25. Dang, that was only 5 minutes. I feel like that was a mouthful. Hold on, y'all. It felt like a mouthful. All right. Hold on. Let me get to where I'm at. We can be intoxicated by our emotions. It's not an evil thing. It's just a reality that we have to consider. We have to consider that while we're making decisions, all right? Because, listen, you got to understand this, because sometimes you can have time in a relationship and you just get comfortable. So it's not even that this is the best for you, but you're just comfortable, all right? Or on the flip of that, it could be a new relationship and you're not willing to put your emotions in it, or you have an emotional thought and attachment to it already, and you don't want to explore it because it's changed, it's new, you don't know what it's going to bring. So you rather deal with the comfortable, because you just know it, than trying something new. Loving yourself enough not to stay somewhere because time is in it. Because see, when you go back to that probing, you got to be true to you. You might have 5, 10, 15, 20 years in, but that 5, 10, 15, 20 years, is it helping you? Is it hindering you? Yeah, real talk like that, okay? Jacinta, I bet ain't nobody talking in that chat today, all right? But this is the thing. We're doing this, and like I said, it's not a bad thing, okay? This is not a bad thing. I almost feel like, man, it's a little tight, but it's true, okay? You gotta do it for you. All right. I'm gonna stop because I got 2 minutes. So listen, go back. Put people, whoever you're allowing to have access to you, have them in the right place, all right? They're either a friend, an associate, an assignment, or an advisor, so that you can start having these real conversations, non-judgmental, but realistic conversations with yourself, okay? You gotta do that so that you can ask yourself these probing questions so that you're able to be the best version of you, unapologetic. You're able to receive all that you're supposed to receive. Because you got to remember, even with Jesus, he had the 3 to 12 and the 72, he sent out 2 by 2. But out of the 3, Peter was one. All right. And here's the thing, he had to evaluate that. So he had to realize Peter was an assignment. And he told Peter. Now he walked with Peter for 3 years, but he didn't tell Peter till the end. Like before the night is over, whatever he told him, like basically you gonna turn your back on me. I think that was Peter. I ain't a theologian, but y'all get what I'm saying. Out of the 3, one of the people was someone that was going to not even say who he was, okay? Stab him in the back, whatever. This is why you gotta have people in the right place. Because if it's an assignment, it may not, you gotta know and you gotta have the reality of where these people are supposed to be so that you know how to walk out the journey and walk out the process, okay? So that's enough, all right? Next week, because once you do all that, we got to put it in the right perspective. But we can't even get into that today. I want you to think about that this week. Take the time for yourself to put people in the right perspective, in the right categories with you, and be willing to have that real conversation with yourself. Ask those probing questions for everyone, because you are victorious. You're not a victim. You're the head. You're not the tail. You're above. You're not beneath. All these things I'm saying is for us to be the best version of us unapologetically and be filled and full in this journey. Okay? If you're frustrated, listen, we're going to be frustrated anyway, but know why we're frustrated. Know where the frustration is coming from and be willing to have that true view and look of yourself. All right? Put things in the right perspective. It's never what we go through, but it's how we get through it. And this, I'm telling you, I've been doing it. It helps. It helps. And it makes us more stable in our emotions, okay? I don't want to throw my emotions away if they're the compass of my soul, but I gotta have a balance. So again, I'm sure it's 10:30 now. Lord, it's 10:31. I am Nicole D. Jones. I want you to continue to stay focused, stay humble, stay positive. Be the best version of you unapologetically, because no one else can do it, all right? Have a fantabulous rest of the day. Smooches.